So how many of you realize that you were leading in and out of a crisis? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's an important thing is, first accepting and recognizing, and now we're going to dive into the things that we learned about leading out of a crisis. It's a lot of things that until somebody points it out, you never know, and you may not have even known that there was a problem. I mean, here's the thing, guys. Okay, so we know we've been in a fight the last couple of years. That's why I've got my Miyagi-Do headband on, because I came in ready to battle and ready to fight with you. And the thing that we're fighting over is leading out of a crisis. He said, if your leadership plan today is similar than your pre-pandemic leadership plan, you probably have a bad plan. So think about that. If you're doing the same things and you're leading the same way after a crisis as you were before a crisis and even during a crisis, it's time to reevaluate and adjust that plan. And when you're coming out of a crisis, the thing that we talk about, and it was the first thing, is the toll that crisis in leadership takes on us as the leaders. For us, it's tiring. We get worn out. And the thing that we want to do is we just want to stop. And he said, it isn't the time to let up. Coming out of a crisis because things are starting to get better isn't the time to let up on leadership, because people are actively looking for it everywhere. So it's a time to start leaning in and pressing in to leadership more, because people are looking for someone to lead. And the reason why that is because in a crisis, the fake leaders disappear. The people that acted like leaders until there was a storm. And when there's a storm, that's when the true captains, the true sailors show up, because in the midst of the storm, they lead through it while others fall by the wayside. So when you're talking about the toll that it took on you, you have to understand that you're tired and possibly depleted. And those are two completely different things. Because if you're tired, you can rest and take a nap. If you're depleted, you need to get refilled. So the question is where are you going to get refilled? Where are you looking? Are you doing personal development? You showed up today. Congratulations. You're here to refill yourself so that you can go out and lead your teams well. And he said, here's the hard truth. It is completely up to you to get refilled. Nobody is going to come to you to refill you. You have to seek it out. So when you are leading on empty, you'll never lead well, because you're pouring out of something that you don't have. So you continually need to fill yourself up in order to pour out into others. That's one of the things that I pray for, and I pray over you guys all the time, is, Lord, just fill them up to overflowing so that they can pour out into the people that they need to pour out into. And it says, you can't consistently give to others well without occasionally refilling yourself well. And the 4 places that we need to look at are physically, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. Are you taking time each month to address each one of those things? If not, start looking at it. Physically, are you getting up and moving and doing some sort of activity every day? Guys, I said that every day you need to be doing something to lift your heart rate, to get you, because people who have elevated heart rate throughout the day accomplish more, because it sets the tempo for their day. Emotionally, guys, there's so much that I've talked about as far as mental health and mental wellness. Deep dive into that, because every single person either struggles with mental health or they know somebody who struggles with mental health. So it's something very important to pay attention to. And that comes to relationally. Are you looking at your relationships and pouring into the ones that are the valuable ones that build you up, and removing the ones that tear you down? And then spiritually, guys, we serve an amazing God. And when you plug into him and you focus on him, everything else will fall in line. The other thing that talks about is number 2 is the toll that crisis leadership took on your leaders. And this is one of the things that, we need to be aware of as leaders that have leaders, is not only are our leaders tired from trying to lead their teams, they also have an inbuilt, I guess you would say, adoration of trying to lead up to your expectation. Because you're the leader that's leading them, they want to make sure that they're doing a good job for you. So they're getting it from both ends. They're burning both ends of the leadership candle, trying to lead well for their team and trying to lead well to make you proud of them. So make sure that you're aware of that. You know, it's one of those things that I'm trying to do a better job of every single year, making sure that I let you guys know how much you are valued, how much Stephanie and I absolutely care about you and need you and want you to have a great year and a great life. Said, you know, if you realize that your leaders are unsettled, then that means the followers are unsettled. So when you can come in with confidence in knowing what you're doing and where you're going, it will settle your leaders and settle the people that are on their team. And then the third one is understanding that when you're coming out of a crisis, you are in uncharted territory. So that's why we repeat it again, is if you're leading the same way after the crisis as you were before, you're not going to have success. Because no matter how much experience you as a leader or your team has, when you get out of the crisis, you're in uncharted territory. We've never been here before. We've never gone through a 2-year pandemic where nobody knows what to do leading out of it. So the things that worked in 2019 probably no longer work now in 2022. Some of them will, but some of them won't. And it's your job to discover which ones to keep and which ones to change. So if you're leading out of a crisis, make sure you look at your leadership and see if you're doing the same things, because you need to look and adjust. So your ability to realize you're leading in an entirely new world will determine the amount of success you have. And that's because when you realize that you need to start leading differently, the person who adapts and adjusts first will be the one that the people recognize and start to follow the fastest. One thing that he said on here, which it's very, I guess, unsettling, because it's one of those things that until, like Chad said, until you realize it's been said, you really don't realize that it's happening. It said, leading out of a crisis is more difficult than leading while in one. Because when you're leading in one, you're acting decisively, you're adjusting swiftly, you're communicating frequently, and those are the things that you're doing in the moment. And then once you get out, you kind of take a sigh of relief. And then maybe you're not as attentive as a leader as you were, because you're like, oh, we're not in a crisis anymore. But again, this is the time to lead in, because of the fact that people are still looking for someone to pick up the pieces and to move forward. This is not a time to let up on your leadership, guys. This is a time to continue to dive in. And I'm so excited and so proud that you showed up today, because you're taking steps to develop that leadership so that you can go out and change other people's lives. Again, I want you to hear it from me. Your leadership matters right now more than any other time that it has before, because people are looking to you and people will follow you when you give them the proper guidance and leadership coming out as you did going in. Guys, I hope that this helped. Remember, part 2 comes out next week, and we're going to go through the ways of how to lead out of leadership. We've discovered that we're leading out of leadership, but how to is coming in part 2. So we'll see you here again next week. Go out and make it an amazing week. We'll see you again soon.